Nadim here with PC.Solutions.Net. So another Friday, great day, sunny, nice. After the hurricane that went through Houston, it's a good day. In the IT world, however, it is not as good of a day, and the reason is Crowdstrike. So I don't know if you've heard, but a lot of the larger enterprise systems are offline. This is causing some ripple effects. Fortunately, knock on wood, none of our customers are impacted. We do not use CrowdStrike. I know of several upstream vendors and companies that use CrowdStrike. Some public companies use CrowdStrike. This was a software that was pretty well known and implemented in the larger enterprise space. So that is causing a problem. It's one of the updates in their Falcon sensor that causes a crash in Windows. So if you're running Windows and your Windows is not booting, and if you know you're using CrowdStrike, this is probably the cause. So what can you do to fix it? So really quick, what you want to do is you want to reboot the host that is crashing, and it should have an opportunity at that point to revert to channel file, an update that actually is working. If it crashes again, if that doesn't fix it, then that means we need to manually change the file that is causing the crash. So boot into safe mode, and you can use alternate environment to boot. As long as you have access to the file system, you should be fine. So what you're wanting to do is look for this folder right here. So just go into Windows System32 drivers, CrowdStrike, and rename this file to something else. Now, this document says delete it. You can delete it, but I would rather just rename it. Rename it instead of .sys, call it something like .bak or something like that. Once it's renamed, then boot normally. Now, keep in mind, if you boot from an alternate environment, you will probably not be able to mount the Windows volume if it's BitLocker encrypted. So you will need the recovery key if you boot from an alternate environment. That's the whole idea behind encryption, that you cannot get to the files unless you have that recovery key. So keep your recovery key handy, and go ahead and boot into safe mode or alternate recovery environment. Rename this file and let Windows boot normally. You should be fine, and then the new updates should be good. Like I said, we don't use CrowdStrike. Our customers don't use CrowdStrike, but there are some upstream vendors that use CrowdStrike, so their systems will be impacted. If you're running Linux, which a lot of companies out there on the data center, they run Linux systems, those are not impacted at all. If you are running Windows, now, of course, a question came this morning was, hey, is Azure down? So Azure is owned and run by Microsoft. However, a lot of the infrastructure in Azure is Linux-based, and internally, Microsoft does not use CrowdStrike. So Azure by itself is not impacted, but if you have a company that has Windows-based devices in Windows-based VMs in Azure, and they use CrowdStrike as their security software, those machines will be impacted. So it's only companies that use CrowdStrike that are impacted. Microsoft internally does not use CrowdStrike, so they won't be impacted. So Azure as a whole is not impacted, but companies that have workloads in Azure that are using CrowdStrike will be impacted by this. So hopefully this will help you out. It's the end of the week. What a bang to end the week with. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next week.